Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining the Development Awardees webinar. First, I'd like to say congratulations to all of you. Know it was a lot of work to get to this stage. I'm Dimitri Perkins, the lead program director for the Engines program. And so again, just congratulations. We recognize all of the hard work that it took to get here. It's been a long road here. And so today's session really is about us having an opportunity to get to know you better, to provide some overarching insights. And we look forward to today and to working with you over the next several years or multiple years. And so let me move to the next slide here. So just to give you an idea of what we'll discuss today, we'll spend some time to discuss an overview of the program and timeline of activities and provide some overarching details about the cooperative agreement, which you have all received. And then we'll talk about the NSF Builders Platform, which is a service platform that will be available to the development awardees as well as the full engines. And then most importantly, you'll have an opportunity to meet your managing program officer in breakout rooms so you can have kind of discussions, get to know each other, and we'll be in listening mode. Primarily, NSF will be in listening mode to hear from you. And then number 5, we'll discuss a bit about the research security plans. We received a number of questions regarding this research security plans, which is new to NSF. So we wanted to give an opportunity for you guys to hear directly from us on that. And then we'll close with the Q&A section where you can submit questions to the NSF team, and we'll provide feedback to you. But before we get into today, I'd like to introduce both Erwin and Thiaga to you, and they will provide some opening comments and welcome to you guys. So Erwin.
All right, thanks very much, Dimitri, and hello, everybody. Great to be with you today. As Dimitri said, I'm Erwin Ganchinani, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships, leading the new TIP Directorate here at NSF, which is home to this NSF Regional Innovation Engines program that we are so excited about. So let me, on behalf of the entire team, Dimitri already said it, Thiaga is going to say it as well in just a moment, and the others on this team will have opportunities to say it as well. Let me first start by welcoming you all to this conversation today. In the audience, we have 44 teams that we have funded, and you represent 43 states plus 3 U.S. territories, really an incredible breadth of regions across the country. And you as teams are really hoping to spur the vibrant economic growth of your regions in topics that are ranging from advanced agriculture to aerospace to sustainable systems and beyond. And you can see who you are on this map. I'm sure all of you have had a chance to take a look at this in the past prior to this webinar, but you can see the Engines Development Awards that we have funded, and you can see the regions as well as the topic areas that they cover as well. So I want to first say something that is really important to us. Congratulations. We cannot say that enough. We are not only excited about each and every one of the awards that we're making, but we are also incredibly excited about the diversity that is represented among all of you in this room. Diversity in terms of topics, in terms of the organizations that are represented, in terms of the sectors, in terms of the regions that you all represent. And as a matter of fact, if you take a look at the dashboard of the Engines Development Awards that you see on the screen here, you'll find that we span 46 states and territories of the U.S. We span all of the 10 technology areas that were called out by Congress in the CHIPS and Science Act legislation, and we span quite a number of national, societal, and geostrategic challenges that we face as well. And that is all your work of trying to pull together teams, trying to define regions of service, trying to get to a point to be ready for the initial phase of these Engines Development Awards. So congratulations to all of you. Now, I think it goes without saying that Congress has ambitions. They have ambitious plans, in fact, to ensure that the U.S. continues to be in the vanguard of competitiveness in the areas that I just talked about, which is really what ultimately motivated the authorization of the new TIP Directorate and also the authorization of this program, the NSF Regional Innovation Engines Program. It is not every day that we have a program that's codified in statute, in law, for the U.S. And it's also why Congress authorized a substantial growth for the National Science Foundation's budget over a 5-year trajectory, more than $36 billion between now and fiscal year 27, and of that $20 billion for the TIP Directorate as well. And so, subject to actual appropriations, we fully expect to be able to fund the next round of NSF Engines Awards by the time we get to fall 2025. And we fully expect that you all will be in the company that is applying to that funding opportunity. And it is our hope that our $1 million investment in each of your teams will help you to develop a strong submission for that funding opportunity down the road. Now, let me stress that all of us on this call, and really I'm going to emphasize the program team that you have worked with up until this point, the program team going forward, but all of us is deeply invested in helping you and helping your regions grow by helping you over the course of the next couple of years. Dimitri, we can go back to the previous slide. I'll come to the program team in just a second. So while the primary outcome of your award activity can be imagined to be the development of a strong Type 2 NSF engines full proposal, please know that we really view that as just one of many possible outcomes. And we're really serious about this. The Engines program is about developing the innate capacity, developing the talent within the various regions of the country that we're supporting through the program. And you all are a sampling of that talent, and you represent the potential of your regions. And so we hope that through the activities that you undertake through your awards, each of your teams will grow and develop a deeper awareness of what it takes to pursue a vibrant innovation ecosystem, and that you're also able to educate other key constituents within your regions about that as well. By identifying an effective roadmap to fuse use-inspired research, to fuse that with translation, with entrepreneurship, with capital investments and workforce development plans, you will be creating a blueprint that can become the basis for your region's economic growth. And we believe your work will also become the basis for competitiveness in your technology area, in your societal or economic challenge area, for your region and for the nation as a whole. Now, it's been 3 weeks since your award announcement, and we at NSF are really eager to learn more about what you are hearing from your regional constituents and partners. What have you heard in terms of their response to the fact that you've been selected for one of these Engines Development Awards? And so while we thank you for saying hello in the chat, we'd also like to encourage you to please feel free to drop any comments on what you're hearing in the webinar chat, because we'd love to kind of take stock of the feedback that you're getting from your communities as well. Now, you are also perhaps already aware that we are in the process of reviewing the Type 2 proposals that were submitted earlier this year. So we've had 2 tracks, 2 competitions, if you will, for the Engines program under this round. One for the Type 1 Engine Development Awards that you all are funded with, and another for Type 2 full-on engines as well. And we have received significant levels of interest from around the country for that second competition too, including proposals from some of the regions that you all represent as well. And as soon as next week, you may start to hear about some of those projects. And over the course of the next few weeks and months, we intend to announce semifinalists that will be going to virtual site visits, finalists that will be hosting site visits, and so forth. But as we do that, please know that these announcements and the eventual small number of NSF engines that we fund this fall, they should not take anything away from your development awards. That is our view, and that is our view in earnest. In fact, quite the contrary. One of the things that we have stressed about the Engines program is that this is not about winners and losers. We want to redefine the definition of success. Just as every region has important contextual elements that help us understand where you are today and where you are seeking to go 1, 2, 5, 10 years from now, there are many different pathways to growing innovation ecosystems in different regions across the country. No one size fits all. And in some cases, your projects may end up competing for and receiving an NSF Engines Award a few years from now. In other cases, you may end up going a different route with investment from your state and local and tribal governments, from foundations, from others as well. Similarly, when we fund an NSF engine, we have said that the funding is for up to 10 years, but it may be a mark of success for an engine to receive only a few years of funding from NSF before it goes on into a different sustaining trajectory. So if there's one thing that you take away from my comments, other than the congratulations and the excitement that we have for all of you and all of the awards that we've announced, and that excitement, I think, transcends NSF, it transcends to our constituents in the administration and in Congress as well. I hope the other thing that you take away is that we are really seeking with this program to change the definition of success and acknowledge that every innovation ecosystem is on its own trajectory toward use-inspired R&D, translation, entrepreneurship, and that inclusive workforce development that we talk about. So with that, we know that the hard work is not just getting underway in this case. You all have been hard at work for a year or more since before even we launched the NSF Engines program. Some of you saw it coming. But we hope that this webinar and the subsequent offerings from the NSF Engines program team, the folks on this call from NSF have been really taking a lot of time to develop a thoughtful approach for working with the development awards that we funded. We hope that this is all useful to you, as we certainly wish you the very best and stand with you as you embark on this journey toward transforming your region through use-inspired and translational R&D, as well as workforce development. And we cannot wait to talk about the progress. We cannot wait to talk about the impacts that you're starting to have as well. So before I close, I'd like to, now you can go to the next slide. Sorry, Dimitri. I'd like to go to the next slide for just a second and really focus in on the NSF Engines program team for one moment. And I think that we discovered, there's a lot of folks here. We may have missed one or two folks. We hope not. But this team that you see on this screen is really the team that has been instrumental behind shaping this program, behind running this program, behind getting us to this point, and now shaping some of these offerings that we have starting with today's webinar and into the future. And so I think that it goes without saying that, let's give them at least a virtual round of applause, if not anything more. Hopefully there will come a point where we can meet in person. But I think that this team is really a testament to where we are today with the Engines program, the success we're already having, to all of you, and where we hope to go into the future as well. I can't thank them enough for their hard work, their dedication, and really their work on a very, very fast time frame. So with that, then, let me now turn things over to Thiaga. He's the Division Director for the TIP Division of Innovation and Technology Ecosystems, ITE, which is home to the Engines program. And I think he's going to say a few words about the goals of this particular kickoff webinar, but then also a few more words about how we see your work over the coming months as well. So Thiaga, over to you.
Thank you, Erwin. I'm really delighted to come and meet and greet all of you as we embark on this journey. Again, I want to reiterate the congratulations that Erwin mentioned. We are really excited to be starting this journey with all of you. As you saw, we have a large team of program officers, and they are going to be working very closely with you over the next 2 years. And again, keep those sentiments coming in the chat about what you're hearing and all the good news and any other feedback that you can share with us that you're hearing from your from the field. We want to hear both the good and the bad, and anything else that you want to share with us. Right? Don't just come to us with questions. Also share all the good stuff that you hear from about your program. I want to actually share one statement that one of you made when we announced the awards last month, and I quote, right? Working on economic development at a regional level has the impact and importance that makes sleep an afterthought. What a blast. We are so eager to stir it up. So that excitement and the magnitude of work that lays ahead is exactly how we feel. We have taken on this very ambitious task, and as a team, we are committed, and as an agency, we are doubly committed to providing the best possible support to all of you, right? And we intend to do that through a range of opportunities, through monthly training sessions, for example, on how to build innovation ecosystems. We'll give you access to the NSF Engines Builder Platform, which we will have up and running in a few months' time. We will commit to guide you on how to evaluate and assess the progress you are making in a way that's measurable and something that researchers can provide feedback on. And we will continually share the results of everything that we are learning about this program and your progress to help you stay up to date on the best practices that are emerging around the country and even globally, and help you customize them within your regions to help you achieve the maximum level of success. So this is our commitment to you. And I also want to say, as you prepare for the next funding opportunity, I want to make it very clear that this is not going to be easy. A compelling, high-quality engines proposal has to be strong on the various facets that make up an NSF engine. And it features an inclusive and equitable plan to incorporate the diverse groups of constituents that you have to bring into all aspects of the engine's operations. So you need to also baseline the status of your region in all of these aspects and make robust plans that will advance the region's development across these metrics. Okay, so the level of effort needed to develop such a proposal is fairly high. And of course, it only gets harder if you get the award to actually execute on that plan. Okay, but I also want to make sure that you know this, the competition is not going to be limited to just the folks who get the development awards. There will also be proposals from others who have not received an Engines Development Award. And therefore, thinking at the regional level, thinking about the region as a whole and not just as a team that is one region, there is nothing that makes you additionally special compared to somebody else who is willing to put in the equal amount of hard work without this investment. So make sure that you have a broad-based support from the regional constituents within the region of service. That's going to be extremely, extremely important, having that buy-in. It is not essential, right, or expected that each one of you will end up submitting a standalone engines proposal. For example, I can imagine there will be teaming among yourselves. You could be teaming with others who may want to submit an engines proposal, and you may not come in as a lead. Or you could choose to pursue an EDA tech hub instead. Or you may end up deciding that, hey, we tried, but it's just that we are not in a state where we are ready to submit a proposal at this time. Any of that is possible. And these are all perfectly okay with us, as Erwin alluded. Like, we are not trying to define success as one particular outcome. We want to set expectations that what we are going to do over the next 2 years is a journey of discovery of how and where your region is positioned with respect to developing or becoming part of a vibrant innovation ecosystem. There are many, many end states, and we do not want you to see or define yourself as saying you're successful only if you do X. Okay. So I also want to address alignment with the NSF Engines Award, the larger awards that we'll be announcing this fall. As Erwin mentioned, we are going to be making those awards announcements soon, and you are going to be hearing about some announcements around the semi-finalists and the finalists and so forth over the next few months. From the group of people who do not get the award, and that will be a very large group of people who have submitted proposals, and then a very small number of people will get the awards, but there'll be a lot of people who don't make it to that stage. We believe that there will be quite a few who will be similar to you in the level of preparation and might be given the additional support from NSF. And so we will be making additional engines development awards from that cohort. So your cohort will be definitely be larger than the 44 projects represented here today. So keep that in mind, okay? And some of them may be in your region as well, okay? And regarding the larger awards, the $160 million awards that we will announce, as we go about thinking which teams to fund, it is an entirely plausible scenario that we'll be considering a region that overlaps your region of service, right? Now, you may be worried about that, and rightfully so. And here's what I have to say about it. If this potential engine that we are considering funding, if it is addressing a topic that is very similar to ours, then we are going to seek to ensure that your team is incorporated into that project to bring all of you together and work as one region to support development across the board. Okay, there may be some realignment needed. Some tough discussions are ahead or about the region of service and the budgets and so forth, but it's our commitment to work collaboratively with everyone involved to do this well. Okay, Now, on the other hand, if the proposal that we are considering for funding for the larger award is addressing an entirely different societal challenge than what you have chosen, then you do not have to worry about the fact that, oh my God, there is an engine in the area. Will my eventual application be even considered for a funding, even if I do very well in the review process? We want to assure you that the region of service overlap, right, is not going to be a problem if your topics are substantially different. Okay, we are very much open to supporting multiple engines that address different societal challenges within a given area with some minor overlap, right? So similarly, if there's a tech hub in your region that's announced by EDA in the ongoing competition that was just announced now, and the subsequent rounds that will happen in the next few years, we actually hope that you are already aware of such an effort happening and that you end up finding yourself as part of such a proposing team. This is about regional development. We are operating as one federal government, and we see all of these investments as synergistic, right? Having an NSF Engine Award doesn't mean you cannot get a Tech Hub Award and vice versa. So we want you to have that greater awareness of the region. Remember what I said before, make sure you get the regional buy-in. So develop that network and make sure they're working closely with all the key stakeholders in the region. You saw the team that we have, and you'll be meeting many of them in breakout rooms today. These are very talented, dedicated, and capable people who have been working on this project for a year or more. We are deeply committed to help you succeed, and we are passionate about the mission and the vision that this program has brought forward to transform the economy of this country, right? So our commitment to you is that we will be open, transparent, and be collaborative in our dealings with you. And that's the reason why this award is not designed as a typical NSF grant, but it is set up as a cooperative agreement. So from your side, that also means this is not a carte blanche for you to go away on your own and come back to us at the end of year one and tell us what problems you have at that point. There are some expectations of you as well, which we have outlined in the cooperative agreement. We will talk about this and more in the remaining of our time in this webinar. And you'll be hearing from each different program officers. And of course, you'll get more chance to interact with them during the breakout sessions. We'll have a Q&A session to take all your questions, and we'll get to as many as we can today. But of course, this is just a first interaction. There'll be many more interactions that we will have with you. So you can count on us being engaged with you at all times. So before we go to the rest of the sessions, I'm sure you have some questions for me and Erwin. So we are ready to answer any questions if you have today. Please post your questions in the chat and we will try to take them. So I think while we are waiting for questions, so there's one question that we can probably take that came before the thing. And Erwin, this is something for you, right? I think I probably alluded to this. Maybe we can clarify. Are there any restrictions that relate to the development awardees pursuing additional funding sources from NSF, other agencies, anybody else during this development period?
No. So that's a great question, Thiaga. And I think it's a really important question to surface. I think that we are empowering you all to go off and do great things. As Thiaga said, we will be checking in with you throughout the year. This is not a carte blanche like maybe we sometimes see. But at the same time, I think that as you are growing out your innovation ecosystem and priming yourselves for what comes next, maybe it's a type 2 proposal, maybe it's something else, right? Whatever comes next, that could include resources from other organizations, other programs, other activities, and so forth. So from my standpoint, no, I would certainly encourage you all to be thoughtful about that. Okay, wonderful. So the other question that I will tee up is, and I can try to answer this one, Erwin, and feel free to weigh in. Sure. In terms of the engines region of service, should we try to find ways to collaborate or merge with other engines that are in close proximity and relevant to our topic area and goals? Or should we just stick with the region we have identified in our application? And my answer is, I guess, what I said before. This is a voyage of discovery. We expect fully that you will pivot and make changes as needed, both in terms of the topic, the region of service,
the teaming, the partners, and the stakeholders that you think are relevant, right? So don't feel that you are tied to the application. Do what is helpful and appropriate for your cumulative regional development. And if that means that making some tough choices or having some hard pivots as you go along this process, including merging or changing your region of service or redefining yourself, that's perfectly game.
And so Thiago, maybe we'll just tag team this a little bit. There are a few questions in the chat. So I'll direct maybe a couple of these to you and maybe take one on my own as well. So
go for it.
The question is, do you anticipate any in-person events for engine development awardees at NSF in the first 2 years, or will all the interactions be virtual?
Yeah.
I'll
take that one. So I think we definitely are aiming to have some in-person interactions. So in terms of scaling, there'll be certain events where it may be preferable to do things virtually. It will allow for a larger, diverse set of participants to participate. But we fully anticipate the program team to engage with you in person, definitely before the first year, if not once, more than once. So that we expect that to happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. And then another question is, will each team be assigned a specific contact or engagement coordinator?
Right. And that's the program officer, the cognizant program officer, who is responsible for managing your award. If you log into r.gov for your award, you should already see who that person is, but you will be meeting them today as well. We will share this information with you. I mean, you'll get to see them and meet them today. And Erwin, I think a question that before we pivot and hand this off to the team, this may be a good one that you should take. Are there plans for sharing information about the type 2 proposals not awarded?
Right.
Because this may be this could help with team building.
Yeah, that's a great point about helping with team building. Having said that, at this point, we don't have plans to share the non-awardees, if you will, for the type 2s just yet. En masse. That said, that I would encourage you to stay tuned. We are going to share some information about teams that are not yet awardees, starting as soon as maybe next week or the week after, something to that effect. So stay tuned. There will be some information that we'll make available that we think will be very helpful to you when it comes to teaming in the long term. But we're not going to share non-awardees quite yet. But we do, again, I would point folks back to the concept outlines from last year. I would continue to point folks to the various resources that we have made available as transparently as we can to try to encourage as much teaming as possible in the ecosystem.
Right. So I think with that, let's transition off to the rest of the presentation.
Just really quickly, I just wanted to get to Joe's comment in the chat. Can you provide current definition thoughts of a viable ecosystem as an outcome? Stay tuned, because I think that our program officers, they have some slides. Dimitri has some slides coming up, I think, that will help us walk through that. And I think we'll also get to some of the other questions that I see popping up in the chat as well. So stay tuned. Sorry, Thiago, go ahead.
Absolutely. I was just going to say the same. We will take the rest of the questions as part of the other Q&A. So keep those questions coming. This is very helpful. And I think Daniel actually put something out there where we had the concept outlines that were submitted as that all of you submitted as the original thing. And many of those type 2 concept outlines ended up applying. So that's a way to kind of get a sense of who might be there. It doesn't mean they must have applied, but you can piece things together and probably try to have a conversation to figure that out with respect to teaming. Dimitri, over to you.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot, Erwin, Thiago. So we'll go ahead and get started with today's discussion. I did want to take an opportunity to answer a question that we as a team often hear, and I'll try to answer it with a personal story, and hopefully it will be useful to you in understanding kind of what we see as a team. Thiago introduced the team, and I just wanted to also thank all of the team who's been working diligently to make this program a reality. And all of us are, working on this project because we think it's important. And we often get the question, what's the purpose of an engine? And of course, based on the region, there are a number of different objectives that an engine might have or problems that it's trying to solve. But when Erwin initially approached me about joining this team, one of the first thoughts that came to mind was in terms of what's the purpose of an engine. I grew up in Mississippi, a small town in Mississippi, no restaurants, no stoplights, just a rural town in Mississippi. And my grandfather had a farm. And if you know anything about small farmers, when you have kids and grandkids, you have employees. They just don't get paid money, but they have employees. And so my job was to make sure that the animals had enough water at all times. Of course, it's hot in Mississippi most of the year. And so, about 6th grade, 7th grade, I'm thinking, man, it's hot. I wish there was a way that I could make sure water was here all the time without me having to walk here and run water, make sure they're fed. So I'm thinking there has to be some kind of system I can build, some kind of sensor device that can detect when there is no water or when it's hotter on certain days. And so I was asking around about such a system, right? And so I didn't get a good answer. The engine's job is you should be so pervasive. You should be so much part of your region of service is that when little Dimitri is asking questions like that, the engine should overhear that question. And now you have an idea that you can merge with the resources, the know-how to actually implement such a system as part of your region. So those folks who are focused on ag, you should be pervasive in your region. That's the job of the engine. You want it to be clear what your purpose is, what the topic area is. And when entrepreneurs have questions, when they have ideas, when 7th graders have ideas, the engine should come to front in mind, right? So when I think of an engine and having an impact on your region of service, these are the kinds of things that we want to see. And so that's just Dimitri's perspective and personal story on the impact that you could possibly have on your region, how you can be pervasive and inclusive across your entire region. So before we get into the rest of the discussion here, my colleague Daniel Getzel is going to provide some insights on how you should view NSF as kind of part of your team and where we can help provide the greatest help as you move forward in the development stages. Daniel.
Thanks so much, Dimitri. Really appreciate it. And I know you've heard from a lot of us already, so I'm going to kind of keep this very brief. The reason you're here today is because we saw something in what you put together in your proposal and your team and your research that got us really, really excited. There's something that you all put forward that is incredibly exciting, and it's something that we want to work with you on in a really hands-on way over a 2-year period. So when you think about this period, this 2-year period that we're going to be working with you, think about it as an opportunity to really partner and build this together. At times, you're going to hear over the course of the day about all the different paperwork you need to put together and all the different things you need to submit and all the different things that you're going to do. And at times it might get really overwhelming. And I recognize that. And I know at times we've asked you to put together things very, very quickly. But what I want to say is the reason we're asking you to do all these things and the reason you're here on this call today is because we really believe that you're doing something in your community, you're building something in your community that has the potential to change that region for the future, has the potential to develop the nationally leading technologies that can transform our nation. So you're here because we really believe in you and we want to work with you throughout this process. So that is not just, we're going to give you $1 million and then, come back to us in 2 years and write us a report and we'll say, interesting report. Thanks for doing this. This is a very different approach. You'll hear about our builder platform that we're creating. You'll hear about the training that we're putting together. Our goal is to put your needs at the center of this work. How can we support you? How can we set you up for success? And how do we make sure that what you do over this 2-year period doesn't just live on a piece of paper, or it doesn't just live as kind of a nice little project that you all tried for a little bit and then moved on to something else because the funding dried up. I come at this, and I know a number of other folks on our team come out of this from an operator's perspective. So I've done this work in Baltimore. I've done this work in Kentucky. I've done it in Maine at different points in my life. You all are facing real challenges, and what you're trying to build is incredibly difficult. But I've also been in that situation where, I worked on a transition for a governor, and they basically, on the first day when I was working on the economic development and innovation strategy, they came out with 10 different binders of here are all the other plans that have been written for economic development strategy. And they're written every 2 years, and there's different funders for each of them. And they're here in these binders. And I'm like, okay, well, how many of these have actually been executed on? Like what's working, what isn't? And they're like, we have no idea, but here's the plans that we write on a 2-year basis. Here are the people who funded it. And what we're trying to do here is take a very different approach. This is your moment, like, to catalyze this opportunity. Use this time, use this opportunity to do more than put together a strategy. Do the work that needs to be done to start your innovation ecosystem on the pathway to success, to start the future today. So while we're now going to go into a lot of different details about the different things, I just want to say, I think what's going on right now with this program and going across the federal government around this regional approach to innovation ecosystems is one of the most exciting things that our nation has ever done. And I think that you all are going to be on the vanguard of it. And we are excited to work with you. We are excited to partner with you, and we're excited to build together. So throughout this process, think about us as partners, as opposed to people up in an ivory tower giving you directives, and let's figure out how we do amazing things together. So excited to get started, and thank you all for everything that you all are doing.
Thanks, Daniel. So we'll just jump right in here, and I'll give a brief overview and some timeline of activities. So all of you have heard about this regional innovation ecosystem. Just want to reiterate, and as already been stated, and I can see from the chat, that to build a regional innovation ecosystem will require a committed set of stakeholders spanning government, the universities, VC, corporate partners, as well as entrepreneurs. Then the job of the engine is how do we coalesce all of this talent, all of these resources, and build a functional innovation ecosystem. And so you've submitted a proposal, you've identified some challenges, and so now the question is, what activities, efforts will you conduct within your region to overcome those challenges and make a functional, successful regional innovation ecosystem? And so you might start with defining some specific goals that you would like to accomplish over the next 18 to 24 months. You might want to be ready to launch your engine in the next 24 months. Maybe that's a goal. You want to determine what is your actual North Star for your particular region. Maybe that's your fundamental goal. You want to develop robust partnerships. You want to develop a strong leadership team that truly represents the region. And so there are a number of goals that you might outline that are reasonable for your development award. And so the question that we often see, and you should take all of this as kind of guidance based on our insights from reading tons of type 1 proposals, tons of type 2 proposals, interacting with existing thriving innovation ecosystems. The one common thing across all of these regions, regardless of their maturity, regardless of the sector that they're focused on, the technology sector, the cornerstone to their success is the deep and meaningful partnerships across these various sectors, whether government, corporate. There seems to be a clear idea amongst all those stakeholders of what the objectives are. There's buy-in from across all of those sectors. Each entity may have its own personal objectives, but their objectives are being met by the innovation ecosystem. And so the engine's job becomes, well, how do we develop this stakeholder network? How do we understand, and the second step is the analysis, how do we understand what the shortcomings are of the region, what the objectives of the stakeholders are, how can we develop mutually beneficial outcomes, and then, well, what actions are we going to take to make that happen? And this is, as many of you know, this is not a linear process. It's quite interactive. It requires a lot of feedback, but nevertheless, these are three areas where we see are quite common across those innovation ecosystems that we would say are thriving today. So I won't go through all of these details on the slide, but we'll make these slides available. But just quickly, and many of you will submit proposals and you will talk about your stakeholders, right? But it's important to understand, that we want to see, or what's necessary is real partnerships where there's a demonstrated, quantifiable commitment of partners within the innovation ecosystem. Typically, this might come about by creating or defining your North Star in a shared way, right? There's a conversation, there's back and forth between the engine, between its stakeholders. You need to assess the state of your regional innovation ecosystem, understand the shortcomings, understand the bottlenecks. And from there, the question becomes, how do we overcome these bottlenecks? If these are the things that are preventing us from being a thriving innovation ecosystem, then the third step is, what actions are we going to take? What plans are we going to put in place? And so as you read the Engines BAA, you will see discussions around translation of practice, R&D, workforce development. In one region, maybe you should focus more heavily on R&D versus translation. Other regions you have the R&D, you have workforce, but you need to improve your entrepreneur activities. So it's up to each region to define, what are the challenges specific to that region and what actions can we take to overcome those challenges. Another important point for the regional innovation ecosystem or the Engines program is defining your region of service. And so this is a very important component. We often hear questions, is a region too small? Is this region too large? What we would typically say is you want to define a region based on its appropriateness for your area, right? So if I'm defining a region around energy, just as an example, in South Louisiana, then there's a reason why I might choose the state of Louisiana and specific counties along the Gulf Coast to serve as a region. There's something that ties that region together, as opposed to, well, we want to have all the top universities within a 5-state area to be a part of this, so we'll choose 5 states to be the region, right? So that's probably not a very good reason to make that your region. It should have some tie to the sector. You have to understand how the funds will apply across all of the states. So the important point is for the entity, for you guys to decide, what makes sense for you to operate as a region. How will the funds be used across? Will too large of a region dilute the funds? So these are all the questions that you have to wrestle with to make a decision on the size of your region. But we'll talk more about that throughout this process, throughout all the training that you're gonna be involved in. You'll get much more detailed guidance on right sizing the region. But just want to make sure that we understand that this is a critical point in determining the success of your efforts. So the timeline of activities. So this slide, we just want to give you some sense of what you should expect over the next 18 to 24 months. So the award date was May 15th. Obviously, June 7th is our first meeting with you here today. And so July, August timeframe, you will receive additional guidance on developing performance evaluation plans. You'll be receiving emails from the team about those activities. All the teams, as noted in the BAA and the cooperative agreement, will be required to participate in dedicated training sessions. Those sessions are expected to begin in September and will continue through fall of 2024. All right, and so you'll hear more details about the training sessions and the length and duration and the content of those in the next few slides here. You've heard a lot about the Builder Platform. We intend to launch the Builder Platform in fall 2023, hopefully October, November timeframe. And then, of course, many of you are expecting to submit type 2 proposals. And so the next iteration of the engines BAA will be released in the second quarter of 2024. And then based on that timeline, we would hope to make the first for the next round of Type 2 awards in fall of 2025. So this kind of gives you a general outline of activities and some points where you'll need to target to be ready to submit proposals for the next round. So all of these dates are obviously tentative to some degree, but we just wanted to give you a clear idea of what our expectations are. Obviously, our expectations will depend on funding allocations and a number of other issues, but we think that this helps you kind of lay out your own plans from here. So I'm going to stop here and pass it to my colleague Florence, as Florence will discuss some overview of the cooperative agreements, and then we'll have some colleagues to discuss the awardee training activities and performance evaluation. So Florence, you're up next.
Thanks, Dimitri, and I'm going to keep this short because I know I'm running short or a little bit behind, and we're all anxious to get into the breakout room. So we've talked about a bit about the commitment by NSF for engagement with all of the teams today, and we thought it would be helpful to frame the award so you understand, especially if you've had a grant with NSF before and never a cooperative agreement. So the whole idea of a cooperative agreement is that we do need an award vehicle where we need substantial ongoing foundation involvement. So this commitment, this involvement, this cooperative support can be done because of the type of award that we've chosen, so this cooperative agreement. And you might be asking yourself, well, when do we use cooperative agreements? Certainly when the activity is technically or managerial complex. And I think that's what we have here with the engines. Nobody would argue that. So a couple of examples, you're probably asking yourself, well, what do they mean by substantial involvement? So if you've never had a grant with NSF or you've had a standard grant with NSF, you may not be aware of some of these, that we actually have these capabilities to work so closely. And it is an opportunity. So we hope you look at this as more an opportunity to work closely with us, partner with us, rather than us prescribing things or working too closely. So a couple of examples, and I think you're going to hear about this in the training a little bit, the builder platform and those kinds of engagements. But as you look at your award, some of the prior approvals, for example, with the PI or CEO, any other personnel we may have some comments on, perhaps with your sub-awards, we may want to weigh in on those as well. And then, of course, that there's other activities such as the builder platform, such as training, we may get closely involved with that. So our monitoring activities, and we call them monitoring, but they're actually assistive activities. We may actually point to kinds of things where we want you to pivot, or we like things to change in the way that they're being implemented. So all of this is possible because we are using cooperative agreements. The next step, next slide, please. So a couple of things to think about on this point about substantial involvement and key responsibilities. These are incorporated into your financial and award programmatic award terms and conditions. So when you look at your award and you scan down to the financial and programmatic awards terms and conditions, bear this in mind, that we've carefully crafted these so that it enables us to have that substantial involvement. Key responsibilities are the same thing as I mentioned, some examples that the PI, CEO, the agency does have in this particular case, approval requirements around this. In the case of reporting requirements, particularly with the engine, you'll see that we've tied payments to actually performance. And then lastly, the fact that we do have project and awardee reviews throughout the term of the award, that also is an indication that we have substantial involvement. Bottom line, however, the awardee has primary responsibility for the conduct of the project. So while we may get involved, we may closely guide you or advise you, all the responsibilities remain with the awardees. We want to make that point. We'll definitely monitor the cooperative agreement in accordance with the terms and conditions. However, NSF will not assume overall control of the project or change or direct the project activities directly. So I'm going to pass it off because I know there's lots to go on. I think maybe Daniel is up, or I'm sorry, one more slide. We'll get lots of questions around this about NSF engagement, resources. How do I manage the award? I don't know where to start. The slide has a link. So this title, it says Manager Award, actually is a link back to our NSF site. Strongly encourage you to go there. There's tons of documentation, and that's a really great place to start. You'll have a chance to talk to the cognizant POs today as well. So that's another resource. But definitely start at the website if you haven't been out there. It's publicly available. Just go to https://www.nsf.gov. And at the top, you can see this yellow highlight, Manager Award. It's going to cross-link you and point you to all these great resources, FAQs, everything you'll need in terms of background and documentation. Next slide. Okay, looks like we've put some questions in here. I don't know if we want to wait until the later on to answer these. I know we're running short on time, so maybe we should do that and switch over.
All right. So now Jeffrey is up.
Hi, everybody, and congratulations. Happy to have a chance to talk to you. We're going to have a series of training is not really the word we want to use as much as it's a convenient word, but really an opportunity to help all the Type 1 awardees understand how to be effective in building your regional innovation ecosystem. And it's not really about whether or not you ultimately win a Type 2 award. I went to the regional Build Back Better Regional Challenge finalists workshop a couple summers ago, and they were even the ones who said, look, even if we don't get it, we won, because they built the set of partnerships, they developed a strategy that could lead them on to success, even without having won the BBRC award. And so we want to make sure that we put you in a position to be successful, whether or not you're successful in getting a Type 2 award. We want lasting value to come out of this investment by NSF. Next slide, Dimitri. Next slide. Thanks. So this is just a sampling of the topics. We're going to spend a lot of time working with you to understand effective models of innovation ecosystems. This is not all coming from NSF. We're working with outside groups that have a lot of experience in this to develop these materials. But to understand what it takes to succeed, what kind of understanding of your region of service, what kind of understanding of the kind of topic you're pursuing, in order to build a successful innovation ecosystem. We'll look a lot at partnerships and stakeholder engagement. These are pretty critical steps, and we've left it, we really left it up to everybody to figure out what that means up to this point, but we want to help you to build effective partnerships. DEIA is one of the important conditions that we expect a focus on DEIA out of our awardees. And so we'll talk about how to make effective use of DEI resources and how to make that pervasive throughout your engine or your development group. We'll talk about leadership in government, translation to practice, workforce development, and performance evaluation. These are all the last ones are all parts that are required parts of the proposal, but they're also required parts of what we think of as an innovation engine, an effective innovation engine. We've talked about this a lot in the past, about the 3 pillars being use-inspired research, translation of research to practice, and workforce development in service of those 2 things, research and translation to practice, and the pervasive focus on DEIA throughout all of that. Next slide, Dimitri. That's just a sampling of topics. And just to give you a sense of commitment, we're thinking of this in terms of semesters. I know many of you, not all of you, but there are many academics among you. And even if you're not an academic, many of you have families and you'd like to spend time in the summer with your families. So we're thinking about doing this over 3 sort of academic semesters, fall, starting in September, the following spring, and then fall of 2024. Our expectation is that there will be 2 sessions per month, each of roughly 2.5 to 3 hours. We still have to pin down the exact amount. And your team needs to have a couple of representatives, hopefully some commonality in those representatives attending these sessions. Each session will have some pre-session assignment. It might be something like going out and interviewing some of your stakeholders or doing some analysis of the current state of topic, research topic in your region, those kinds of things. And then the session will begin with a 30-minute presentation by an expert in that topical area, some breakout exercises, and then group discussion, and finally some discussion of case studies. We'd like to bring in as much as possible case studies of successful innovation ecosystems, and to help to guide your thinking about how to do this. So as I said, thinking of it as 9 months total. So think of that like 18 sessions. This isn't fixed in concrete, but this is our current thinking, spread over a year and a half, three to 4 month semesters. Well, towards the end of the summer, we'll have a lot more detail about what this means. That's it, Dimitri. So we can move on to the next.
All right, thank you, Jeffrey. And so the next topic on the cooperative agreements is the performance evaluation. And my colleague Shirley will handle.
Yes,
this part of the
thanks,
presentation.
Dimitri.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't find it. All right, thank you.
No worries. So as stated earlier by my colleagues, the goal of the development awards is to help each of your teams develop a competitive engines proposal. So as we develop the evaluation framework for engines, we have identified 6 integral drivers for how engines operates, and all of which are probably looking very familiar to you all, which are in green. So for each of these drivers, there are elements that will go into the engines evaluation framework and help make for a competitive engines proposal, and these are listed in blue. So we're working to identify and develop which metrics will be used to assess each of these elements and whether engines is making progress towards each of these goals and outcomes. And as we are still developing these, we will share them with you all as they become finalized. All right, in the meantime, you're probably wondering what you can do to get started while we're working on things on our end. Oops, go back to the previous slide. So as with, so that's where these elements come into play. So with any evaluation, it's very important to take stock exactly as Jeffrey had stated of where you are, of where things are in your region, so that we can actually assess of how far things have gone. So you can think of these elements as things that need baseline data to better communicate your region's needs, barriers, challenges, competitive advantages, and so forth, to show that you have done the necessary groundwork for building the engines in your region. So I'm going to just give maybe 1 or 2 examples because we are short on time here. So for instance, if we are looking at partnerships, at cross-sector partnerships, one of the existing things to take stock of is the existing partners and organizations that you already have relationships with, and what kind of existing resources they have and are sharing. But in addition to that, it is also important to figure out what new partners you need to address any of the gaps or barriers that are currently in the innovation ecosystem to better reach your goal and achieve your objective, and what kind of commitments that they are able to provide into the engines program. So overall, I will end this slide by saying that it's very easy to address all of these elements using broad strokes, but a competitive engines proposal will need to be able to clearly and succinctly identify the existing needs, barriers, and challenges, and how your proposed engine will address each of these things with details instead of using those broad strokes. So next slide, please. So as you start on your development board, we are, as I said, concurrently working on several aspects of the evaluation framework. So these are things that you can anticipate being shared with you in the upcoming months. The first of which is going to be a list of definitions to make sure that everyone is speaking on the same language and have the same understanding and use of same terminology when we're referring to engines. We will also be sharing more information about the evaluation of your development award project outcomes and what we anticipate to assess, how things will be measured, and so forth. And you can use the previous slide as a gauge of the types of things that we are considering in that part of the evaluation. We're also working on providing you with training as well as resources on how to develop that evaluation plan for your engines proposal, as Jeffrey mentioned earlier. And we will also be sharing the entire engines logic model when it is ready. And this logic model will describe how we expect engines to function, how the drivers of engines will operate in a synergistic way to create a sustainable and inclusive innovation ecosystem. So we'll outline the theory of change that we expect engines to have. And lastly, as noted also by Dimitri, we will be holding another session either in July or August to further discuss training and evaluation. But as I mentioned before, in the meantime, we encourage everyone to get started on especially addressing some of those elements in the previous slide and figuring out where the baselines are for your region and thinking about how to identify targets for your region that you want to reach. Thanks.
Thank you, Shirley. And so next, we're going to hear from Joda on the NSF Engines Builder Platform.
Thank you. My name is Joda Tongnap-Nua. I'm a program director with the National Science Foundation. And again, congratulations to all of you. We're really excited to be working with you. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Builder Platform, which is something new for NSF and also fairly new for the entire federal government. So as many of our program staff have said before, this is NSF embarking on something new, and the Builder Platform is no exception. This is a new way to support our awardees, and it's a human-centered, high-touch support network for NSF Engine awardees. And that means that it's not just human-centered in the sense that it's focused on you and your ecosystems, but it's also human-centered in the way that we're delivering these supports. That means there are going to be real people who wake up every single day to ensure that you're successful. And this level and model of support is really inspired by not only the lessons learned from across the federal government on different place-based investment strategies and different programs, but also looking at some success that we've seen in the private sector from accelerators and incubators to the ways that venture capital firms have historically supported their portfolio companies, not just with financial terms, but also with introductions and networks and access to capital and peer learning opportunities. And that's exactly what the Builder Platform is designed to do. Next slide, please. So the responsibilities of the Builder Platform are broadly broken into three different buckets. One is helping each of you as NSF Engine awardees and your local ecosystems source talent and partnerships opportunities with a national network of partners and funders. And I'll come back to that national reach here in just a moment. The second big bucket is creating a robust community of peer-to-peer network for each of the engines awardees. So learning from each other. Each of the engines are certainly going to have their own individual challenges and strengths and specific sets of focus areas. But at the same time, many of you are also going to be facing the same specific kinds of challenges and also have many of the same strengths in your local communities. And the Builder Platform will be specifically tailored and designed to help you learn from each other, both at the CEO level, thinking about your ecosystem, to your senior leadership teams. Additionally, the final bucket is developing tailored curriculum, support structures, and tools that benefit the Engines awardees and are also shaped by your individual priorities, both regionally, your research focus areas, the translational opportunities and partners that you have. And the Builder Platform, again, wakes up every morning and will think of how to best support you as Engines. Next slide, please. So I want to touch a little bit on what makes the Builder Platform different from other initiatives the NSF has embarked on before. And the first one is that this is ecosystem centric. This isn't focused explicitly at the individual startup or entrepreneurial level. This isn't just about helping individual researchers get out of the lab and prepare for translation into the market, but it is really about how do we build really strong innovation ecosystems? And also it's about how do you create a national front door to engage with Engines as a whole. And that doesn't just mean for you. So this isn't just a platform where you can go to reach support, but it's also a platform where national philanthropy, Fortune 100 companies, other government agencies, local governments, small businesses, and other kinds of organizations, institutions, and individuals can come to individually plug in with the Engines themselves. Additionally, one of the things that you're going to be working on is Type 1 or development awardees is going to be trying to pull together your teams. And that's something that we are going to be explicitly focused on in helping you pull together not only the leadership teams and governance models, but also access to mentors, interns, fellows across a national network that comes with access through NSF. And then we're going to be working with teams at multiple stages of their ecosystem development, from Type 1 to Type 2 awardees, and we're really tailoring our level of support to match that. Next slide, please. So here are some possible Builder Platform supports for Type 1 awardees. And I say possible because we are actually in the process of identifying and selecting a lead organization to lead the Builder Platform right now. And I'll come around to that here in just a moment. But some of the supports look like hands-on support and strategy development in your early months as you focus on putting together an ecosystem strategy that aligns with the evaluation plan that you heard about earlier, advice on different kinds of governance models that may be appropriate for your approach to your research focus areas and translational activities, community engagement and DEIA support. And we'll be bringing experts together to help really help you design a community engagement DEIA strategy, as well as workforce development. We know the talent pipeline doesn't just extend to your engine itself, but the entire region. And how do you create and support a strong workforce for your ecosystem? And I've already mentioned the talent network, and we're really thinking about how do we build that out specifically for awardees to really make sure that they have the right team in place to execute these important tasks. We'll also be launching some shared communities of practice for engine CEOs and key leadership team members to engage in shared learning and collective problem solving. This isn't just a series of modules, but really an opportunity to engage meaningfully and learn from each other. There will be curriculum as well, but we really want this to be an opportunity to go deep with a lot of your peers. And then finally, partnership development. At NSF, but also across the federal government, we have access to a wide range of partners, not only government agencies, but also national philanthropy or access to specific kinds of capital that we will be driving and connecting to the Builder Platform to then connect to you. These are some possible supports. There will likely be more that we'll be talking about in the coming weeks and months ahead, but this is a preview of what we are looking to wrap around you. So whenever you hear our team say that we are not only very excited about the work that you are going to do, but we're going to wake up every morning to make sure that you're successful, this is what we really mean. Next slide, please. So some key dates to keep in mind. We have a proposal deadline for the lead organizations to apply. So a lot of organizations have already been putting a lot of work and thought into how they can best support you as engines. And I can tell you there's a ton of excitement out there right now about doing that work. We hope to issue an award sometime in late September. And then we hope to launch this platform sometime in Q4 of this year. So that means late October, November is our target. And then we hope to have an in-person convening in the beginning of 2024. This is something that we're really excited about, and those peer learning opportunities are really, really important. So we look forward to having you in person. Next slide, please. And so just really quickly, if you know of any organization, as I said, that the June 12th is the deadline to submit an application to lead the builder platform. So if something pops into your head, you can go ahead and visit sam.gov for more information. I will also, when I'm wrapped up, drop a link to that sam.gov opportunity in the chat. So you all may know organizations that would be perfect to lead this national network, or a subcontractor who's interested in teaming up with a lead organization. Feel free to forward that information over to them. And then also, if you know an organization interested in being a partner with that eventual builder platform, shoot us a note at engines@nsf.gov, and we'll make sure that we connect that to the builder platform. But overall, I just really want to express our continued excitement and eagerness to get in and support you all. We know that the work that happens at the local level is essential to this success. And so the builder platform is designed to be there for you every step of the way. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to you, Dimitri.
Yeah, thanks, Joda. Okay, so now we're gonna go into breakout rooms, and you're gonna have an opportunity to meet with your cognizant PO. And this is really an opportunity. So while I'm talking here, I'll just move to the next slide. So what you will see here is we have 6 breakout rooms. You should find your proposal number, PI name, and then that tells you which breakout room to go to. So for the teams, if you're not the PI, then you will go to the breakout room with your PI. And so this is an opportunity for you to interact with your PO, ask questions, but we're really just listening to you to try to understand better from your perspective what your concerns are, how we can be more helpful. And so I'll pause right here and give everyone a chance to find their breakout room and decide which room you should go to.
Yeah, we are back again for the next agenda item in the session. So we are just waiting for everyone to show up back up on the screen. Dimitri, are you back? So, Sarah, are you ready to share your screen?
My apologies. Yeah, I went off of video, but not mute. So yeah, sorry about that. Yes, I am pleased to be here and with all of you. I don't know if you saw my chat. I have a meeting I'm leading at 3 p.m. So I have notified them that I'll be a few minutes late, and I can see if anyone else can lead that meeting while I'm giving the presentation. Go
ahead. Why don't you start?
Okay, you can hear everything I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen now.
Yep.
Here we are. And again, thank you so much for everybody being here today. Okay, let's see. Share. Okay, maximize screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
It's coming out as very narrowly, it's like positioned. I'm not sure why.
I'm doing just the PowerPoint. I would think that it would be full screen, but it's not.
Coming like a phone screen in a portrait mode.
That is bizarre. Okay, what about now?
That's perfect. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so again, thank you so much for having me today. I mean, I did provide a kind of a quick overview and background on, of course, how we got here and where these terms and conditions did come from for the research security program requirements. I will kind of go quickly through this just because we are short on time because of my other meeting. But in short, there were a number of key elements in National Security Presidential Memorandum 33 and in the associated implementation guidance. Of course, this was pertaining to disclosure requirements and standardization, consequences for violating disclosure requirements, among others. But really why we're here today is, of course, the research security program requirements. Again, this is really taken out of section 4G of NSPM 33. I won't read it because I think you're probably all familiar with it. But anyway, the language there is included on the PowerPoint slide. But really the focus here is on risk identification and analysis. And again, the research security program requirements, we, in an effort to kind of ensure agencies, federal agencies were moving forward in a standardized manner, you know, across the USG, OSTP, Office of Science and Technology Policy, in coordination with US government agencies, of course, released the research security program standards. And that was released, of course, on March 7th. Comments were due by June 5th. And we tried to give the community as long a time as possible to provide, you know, as robust comments as possible. And actually, in fact, that is what they did. But as we are here today, I am cognizant that there are some questions, of course, about these research security program requirements. I have included it on this slide, but I do want to kind of move to the next slide because what I really want to highlight today also is that, as I mentioned, the comment period just closed on June 5th. And thus far, we are receiving quite a few significant comments back. Really, there's a few main thematic areas of concern. Again, we haven't gone through all of them. It's about 75 comments, I think in total, about 275 pages worth of comments. So we have not yet gone through them all and analyzed them all, but there have been a few listening sessions that we've also been conducting. And overall, one of the big things is there's not enough of a risk-based focus. And that is a very, again, a fair statement to be made, especially given the focus in the NSPM 33 implementation guidance, that this should be kind of focusing on really meaningful contributions to identifying risk associated with research security and integrity and offering tangible benefits that really justifies the cost and burden. So in addition to that, we're also getting a lot of feedback that definitions still need a lot more clarity, consistency. There have been really significant concerns expressed about the current foreign travel requirements as well. So I just wanted to mention that kind of at the top of this presentation, because I'm happy to answer questions, of course, after this and walk through this. But based on this overwhelming kind of feedback that we have received, we are reconsidering currently the terms and conditions to develop the research security program requirements for all of you for the Engines programs. We will be circling back with more detailed guidance. My office, the Office of Chief of Research Security Strategy and Policy, will be working very closely with TIP as we are trying to kind of move forward and provide a little bit more clarity. I think the biggest concern from our vantage point is we don't want this to be a double burden on all of you. Of course, many of you will be subject to the subsequent final research security program standards that are released. And therefore, you know, we don't want to inadvertently place a double burden on you. There is a lot happening in the research security world already with CHIPS and science legislation, NSPM 33, implementation guidance, among others. So very cognizant of this. And I just kind of wanted to say that really at the top of the meeting. Again, we have to discuss this further internally within NSF, but we felt like this was the Engines program was a perfect program to really kind of start implementing this requirement, but this may be something that will have to be scaled back, but we're going to have to discuss that further. So if possible, I'm happy to take some questions. I don't know if this changes questions given kind of what I'm sharing with all of you now, but happy to take a few questions now. And again, I'm going to have to drop off for a 3 p.m. meeting, but I'm happy to be a few minutes late for that. chat. Maybe I can push it to 3:05, which gives us about 7 minutes, if that's okay, because I want to be responsive to all of you. And again, I'm happy to also provide any kind of additional feedback. I've been in correspondence with a few of you, and you know, if you guys want to share research security program drafts you have, happy to kind of facilitate that interaction, provide feedback to you as we can be support you in this process. But I guess over to you and open up to some questions.
Sarah,
Oh,
thank
yeah.
you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I'm going to say some questions that are coming up in the chat. So first of all, I think we are getting people commenting, saying thank you for reconsidering the research security requirements. So we appreciate that for taking the time to deliberate and come up with a better guidance. One question that has come up from Jill Cox is, will research security terms and conditions, no matter whatever we end up developing, eventually flow down to subcontractors as well?
Very great question. I think it's something that is a percolating question. I think there's also perhaps some attention as from the Hill even on this. As of right now, no, but that is something that we will have to take into consideration. Thanks.
Okay, but we will address it as part of the policy.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And so the next question, of course, is when do we think? What's the time frame when we think this requirements will be finalized? And what about enforcement? Is there going to be a window where enforcement will be phased in, or is it going to be going into effect right when the requirements are announced as well?
Yeah, no, great question. So time frame, I think perhaps we thought it was going to be a faster, a more expedited time frame if we hadn't received such significant comments back. So time frame at this point, I'm guesstimating. I don't quite know. I would imagine that it's going to take some time to digest the comments, process, synthesize, and then come up with a most likely a modified draft program standards to share with the rest of the community to go out in final form. I think an optimistic outlook is 6 months. More realistic is probably a year, but probably somewhere in between that. In addition, after the final program standards are released, again, the research community will have, of course, 1 year to implement. And of course, this is institutions receiving over 50 million a year. But of course, as it relates to the engine program, then this is a different discussion as we talk about the specific terms and conditions. So I'm speaking generally about the research security program standards requirement as it's articulated in NSPM 33 and implementation guidance.
Right. And one of the questions immediately points out to the requirement that we have to have a security plan 6 months after award. But here, one of the slides here said 60 days after award. And the question is, the program specific terms and conditions will take precedence over the general guidance as specified in the award letter. Is that right?
Yes, I mean that was the discussion that we had for specifically for the engines program, since this is a very high profile, that this was the terms and conditions were going to be the determining factor. But again, I think given again the abundance of comments we have received back officially through the RFI, through the Federal Register notice, we may take that back for a further discussion.
Okay. Right. So there's a couple of people who are very keen on understanding the foreign travel requirements / restrictions. Is that something you can talk now, or do we want to kind of defer to that later?
I mean, I'll be honest with you again, that you saw that was one of the bullets that we've received a lot of feedback on, and people are kind of explaining that it's very much overburdensome. So I would say that I don't think we should take time right now, because most likely that section is going to be revised quite significantly. And then, one other thing I also wanted to add, now that I realize it, for the timeline, just to be kind of as transparent and kind of responsive as I can be to all of you. We are even, there is a possibility that, we were even trying to see if we could perhaps even pursue a pilot first, So instead of actually requiring the entire research community to implement the research security program standards, we are even considering the possibility of doing a pilot to see how it goes, lessons learned from that, and then potentially the final version being subsequent to that pilot. We're trying to be as you know, give the community as much of an opportunity to really see how this is going to work, what the burden is going to be like, what works, what doesn't. We understand the challenges, of course, across multiple kind of sections of each university. Universities are structured so differently with foreign travel, the way foreign travel is monitored, export control. So we really want to, again, we're getting a lot of really great feedback, which is, you know, why we have the process for the Federal Register comment period. So we really are just trying to be as responsive as we possibly can to all of you.
So if you can take two more questions.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's probably all the questions we are getting now.
Yeah, okay.
So the comment here is the NSF CUI program, the Controlled Unclassified Information Program,
Okay.
seems to be very different from what the DoD has in place. And
Okay.
clarifying those differences will be a big help. And specifically around that, they're asking, will CMMC 2.0 standards and NIST 800-171 be part of the NSF policy as well?
Okay, so I know that I have to. I don't know. I don't know the comparison specifically of what DoD has compared to, you know, what is in the research security program standards. I mean, the whole reason we're doing this is due to the fact of course, trying to harmonize, making things consistent across the USG agencies. I will say that specifically on the research security program standards, the RFI that we did send out, of course, references NIST for cybersecurity standards, but then there is also the differentiate that we differentiate that if you are working on classified work, which I don't know if that obviously perfectly correlates with all of DoD's work, but I imagine some of DoD's work, that there will be higher cybersecurity restrictions. So happy to kind of take that one via email and make sure that I can get you a more specific response on that. But I don't want to answer that right now because of just, I think, the level of granularity that we would need to kind of discuss there.
So it'll be a future guidance that we will be definitely sharing when we announce the final policy, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so and the last question for now is, universities don't have the resources or the authority to conduct background checks on foreign researchers on campus. They could control who works on which projects, right? So the question that is being posed is, at what point does the responsibility for such researchers shifts from either the State Department or the CBP to universities?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I know a lot of times people are kind of, you know, saying, why doesn't State Department take this into consideration when, you know, granting visas? And I will say that I think, you know, I mean, based on the specific you know, requirements of covered personnel that are articulated, we are going to try to, of course, limit this to some extent, again, like to the subcontractor question. But one area in which we are trying to kind of provide tools, I would say, to the research community to maybe, you know, assess concerns or associations of concern is through our Research Security and Integrity Information Sharing Analysis organization, which is required in the CHIPS and Science Act. We are trying to provision tools to the community to try to assess potential, you know, non-disclosures of potential conflicts of interest, conflicts of commitment. Now, I mean, specific to the question of, you know, background checks on foreign students on campus, I mean, I would say that goes slightly beyond the scope if you know, beyond the current covered personnel. But again, I do have to drop off, so I'm happy to provide a more detailed answer to that one. If you don't mind, can we get those two questions and then we can just make sure we respond to those as comprehensively as possible? Would that be okay?
Yeah, so we will send you the list of all these questions, and then so you can take a look and incorporate this as part of the deliberations process.
Okay, and then listen, definitely, I want to be as responsive as we possibly can. So I just want to also say that as soon as we do get clarity on this, you know, we're happy to do a second webinar if it's helpful, or whatever venue we can provide further clarification on this specific terms and condition requirement for the research security program. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. And oh, I'm sorry, I will stop sharing and thank you all. And I'm sorry, I have to drop off for the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye.
Dimitri, back to you. Dimitri, you're muted.
Okay, yeah. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Thiago. So at this point, we're gonna have this time to have questions from the audience, and you can submit your questions via the chat. I know a number of you have already been submitting questions, and we've been collecting them in the background. And so we have a team that's collecting and categorizing questions. So Rachel, you can start with the questions and direct the questions to the appropriate PD.
Will do. We'll start with some kind of general questions, and then we'll go into some of the more specific areas. So
Sure.
this will be for you, Dimitri. It would be nice to know trends and pluses and pitfalls that we're seeing in the proposals, both type 1 and type 2. Are there areas or connections that teams commonly fail to fully think about?
Okay, yeah, so good question. So since you guys are in the type 1 stage and moving to type 2, I'll talk about some common concern for type 2. So if you call in the slides that I presented earlier, if you're going to be a type 2, it should be a comprehensive regional effort, right? So I'll just pick on Larry here with UGA, right? If UGA submits a proposal, it shouldn't just be about UGA, right? It's a regional effort, so it should come across that this is a submission by the region itself. It should have the necessary stakeholders on board. It should be clear that these stakeholders are committed, and we're not looking to fund another university-centric research center. This should be a regional effort. That's number one. So it should be clear that this is driven by the region's interests. The stakeholders should come across clearly. Number two, when you select an R&D area, while there are a number of kind of hot topic areas, the R&D and the innovation space should make sense for your particular region, right? So if it happens to be a hot topic area, then that's fine. But you want to show that the region has the capacity to deliver on that innovation area. So that's number two. Number three, if you're going to develop an engine that's really going to drive innovation across that involves technology, R&D, workforce development, then you want to make sure that the leadership team has the necessary experience across all of those sectors. So if we see a proposal that only has academic institutions as the core partners, then you can be sure that the reviewers are going to say, well, where are the people who can actually do translation and practice? Like, where are the corporate leadership? Where is the economic development leadership? So you can imagine those are the types of questions that you would see. So those are just some three areas where I think you want to be careful as you develop your proposal. I'll add a fourth area that I think is critical. If we say that this should be an inclusive effort, that it should reflect the community of the region, right? And if you say, for example, that you're going to involve tribal communities and that you talk about how this is going to impact tribal nations, but you have no representation from that community, they're not involved at the leadership level, then that begs the question, how serious is the engine actually going to be in serving that community? And so those are some things that you want to account for as you develop your engine, and I'll yield to my colleagues who may want to add to the discussion.
I'll add something else if that's all right. I mean, nobody, type 1s or type 2s, have gotten it completely right throughout this process. So and we don't even know exactly what that should look like, but there are clearly gaps across the board. But one thing that we've consistently seen as an issue, and I think it's just helpful as you think about your next 2 years, is it's not always clear what the activities are that you're going to undertake. Like, what are you actually going to do? And how will that lead to the outcomes? A lot of times people will say, well, we're going to work with this many startups, or they're going to create this many jobs, or this is going to happen. But like, it isn't often clear what is the actual activities or things that you're going to do that are going to catalyze those efforts that are going to come afterwards. So being really clear about the activities and being really clear with your team about the activities of what you are actually going to undertake and how that will contribute to the success is useful. And that is different than just putting metrics out there. It's actually outlining activities that will be undertaken and how you're going to evaluate them and everything else. So I'll pause there.
Okay, I'll add a couple of things also that I'm thinking about, that because you have this time of a year or two to fill in some pieces. So some of the areas that we're really seeing challenges and what we've seen come forward is, one is a lot of teams don't seem to have a full grasp, or at least they're not conveying to us their competitive advantages. So you either know that and teams have not conveyed it, or maybe there's quite a bit of work that can be done to understand what else is going on across the US and how you fit into that. And that can really help make the case for why your region is the right place to be doing it, right? And what you can really bring, what added value you can have. Another one is that we have been expecting to see landscape analyses in various areas that are a lot more clear in terms of, what's going on in your region already related to really even R&D. So R&D, translation, workforce, and then what are the gaps that you're trying to fill in? And so Dimitri had said earlier a little bit about this, that different regions are going to have strengths in certain areas and need to really focus in others. And so you have the opportunity now to do these landscape analyses, and that would be a really great thing to do in the next couple of years. So I'll stop there.
So let me
Yes,
weigh
Jeff.
in a little bit. Another thing I've seen a lot is the different activities look more like parallel play. That is, maybe there's a bunch of research activities that are, underneath the topic, but the connection to how that might lead to translation to practice and how workforce development might tie into those activities is often a little obscure. I mean, that doesn't mean that there was an idea in the mind of the people writing it, but it didn't come across clearly in the proposal. Integration of the various activities is really probably the biggest weakness of many of these proposals. Another thing is to make lots of assertions about activities, but not have budget that supports it. Now, that doesn't mean all the budget has to come from NSF, but if there's other funding that's coming in that's going to support those activities, you should say in the resources section that those resources are available. So there's sort of a disconnect between what they say, what the team says it wants to do, and who's going to do the work and how is that work going to be paid for. That there's often a disconnect.
Okay, here's a quick related question. Will the reviews and evaluations of the winning Type 2 awards be made public? Tiago?
Yeah, NSF policy is to not reveal the reviews that a proposal receives, other than showing the unattributed versions of it to the proposers themselves. Now, if the proposers want to share, they are welcome to. But we, as a matter of policy, we cannot share evaluations of it. What we try to do is to provide a general abstract. And I think that's also ties to a question that a couple of people have asked. Can they get more information on the Type 1 awardees? I think it's related. The general abstract that you have. So if you look up the map on our engines dashboard that we have on our website, there's a link to the award search, like the detailed award info. If there's a public information that awardee has provided, or about what the engine is trying to do and the range of partners that they have, to the extent they have shared. There's also additional information in the dashboard about the topics that they're covering and the range of partners that they're bringing on board. So all of that information is on the dashboard. Now, the dashboard, just for your information, has multiple tabs. So most people seem to be localizing on their first tab. Make sure you look at the other tabs, because those tabs have lots of detailed information that you can't find on the regular NSF award search page. So that's your treasure trove of information. And we think, to the extent that you want to know more about the Type 2s, that information will be equally available for the Type 2s as well. We may consider asking the Type 2s to do some kind of a public presentation / webinar once they're awarded, to talk more about what they are doing and how they pull together their project. So that's a possibility. So I'm not promising that, but that's maybe another way to gain more information. Now, I also will tie a related question. Some of the questions, there were a couple of questions in the breakout rooms about, oh, how do we get to know each other more? So I'll say once again, point to the dashboard. We are also thinking about finding out other additional ways of connecting you all together. So again, stay tuned. If you think the dashboard is not helpful to know more or talk to people directly, let us know and we will try to figure out other ways of connecting you.
Just to add on to that, that will be one of the key features of the Builder platform is connecting you to each other. So stay tuned.
While we have you, Joda, this next one might be a good one for you and Daniel related to the Builder platform. You mentioned sharing best practices across the region and nation, which is a great idea. How do we access best practices? Will this be on the Engines Buildout site? For instance, is there a model IP agreement and or model partnership engagement best practices protocol you'd like awardees to follow?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's exactly part of the resource suite that will be a part of the Builder platform. So things like tech transfer, IP agreements that are standardized or best practice, and a whole host of other things. There will be a resource compository, and we'll begin building that out. We've already started thinking about some of those resources now, but that's going to definitely be a part of that. Daniel, I didn't know if you had anything else to add.
The only thing I'll add is perhaps this will be different than other programs like IUCRC at NSF, where we're not going to say, here is how every single IP agreement needs to look, and here is the template, and you need to sign on to this. It's going to be, we'll give some recommendations. We might be able to be helpful. The Builder platform team might be able to source some of that, but our goal isn't to kind of give you the cookie cutter version of it and say, you need to plug and play this. We really want you to build the things that work best for your region, but we also recognize people are at different stages of development and evolution and maturity and thinking about some of these topics. So we want to be a resource and be helpful so that we set you up for success.
Yeah, and the Builder platform. Oh, sorry.
Go for it, Joe. Finish it.
Oh yeah, I was going to also say, in the Builder platform, we'll go a step further, and it won't just be, here are some documents that represent a good template to start from. I think one of the things that, if there are enough engines, or we hear this consistently saying, we are having challenges with getting IP out of our university because the tech transfer process is overly bureaucratic. We are going to go try and find some subject matter experts and people who've done a really good job of building, processes that streamline that to come help you guys out with your process. And again, there will be some capacity limitations. Maybe it won't be like a one-to-one consulting thing. Maybe it'll be a one-to-many learning process where we walk you through that. But there are going to be lots of opportunities to both like have templates, and maybe that's the thing that will be most valuable, but then also there will be strategic development and support and technical assistance that can help you build a good tool that everybody else can use too.
And I'll say that because of the range of topics that are being covered with the engines, the different fields have different expectations. So companies working in the semiconductor space or the biopharma space may have different expectations of IP and partnering than a company that's like a nonprofit foundation that's working on on climate change problems, or working in the tech space, right? So in a smart computing or low power computing space. So we would love to actually hear from you as well. What are the models that you find that you are finding alignment on, and what are the places where you are finding friction on? Because that will feed us, feed our information database, so we can essentially help converge fairly quickly into a set of workable models on that can be kind of binned by industry segment.
All right, let's shift to a couple of questions about training. So these will be for Jeffrey. Will these training sessions be similar to the Convergence Accelerator program?
Yes and no. So a similar model to how they're organized, the sessions are organized, but not the same content, although there's a little bit of content that will come from the Convergence Accelerator sessions. But so the model of having some pre-work, of having a 20-30 minute presentation, having breakout sessions, that will follow very much what Convergence Accelerator has done.
All right, and a similar one. Do the training sessions build upon each other, or are they independent? This influences whether the same or different team members would attend.
They won't necessarily build across the entire 9 months, but within a subtopic area, you can fully expect that they'll build on each other.
I'll just mention one thing. that I got in my room, which was requests. That might be a request from others. They asked if we could potentially try to have the sessions on a consistent date or time over the period so that they can plan things out in the future. That was a request that came in. I'm just putting out to the full
We'll
group.
certainly make an effort to make it a consistent schedule.
And
Yes.
I just also wanted to add that just to kind of complete Jeffrey, your response, I think we would recognize that based on some of the topics that will go into the training, different members of the team, the training is going to be most appropriate for certain members of your team. So we wouldn't necessarily expect to be the same exact set of individuals for the full training. But, you know, if this is a training bit around workforce, or if it's a training bit around evaluation, you would want the folks that have expertise in that area to really be dedicated to participating in that portion of the training.
Thank you, Becky.
And when will we know the dates and locations of any NSF required in-person meetings requiring travel, and a rough schedule of training, whether it's virtual or in person?
Okay, so the training will be virtual, and you should have a rough schedule in late summer of that. We'll get it to you as quickly as we can, but we're still developing the materials, and we're also deeply engaged with type 2 evaluation process. So they're competing time constraints here. In terms of actual travel to DC, we'll have PI meetings, and I'll leave that to Dimitri maybe to answer more fully.
So we don't have the timeline for the PI meetings. I think the earliest that we would have an in-person meeting would be the first quarter of 2024 is what we discussed, but we don't have an actual date for the type 1 PI meeting.
Okay, so let's shift to a couple of evaluation questions. So Becky or Shirley, for evaluating type 2 proposals on their progress, is the main issue revenue generation from startups?
I'm happy to take that one, and Becky can please feel free to jump in. So the answer is no. So there are many different aspects of engines that we will be evaluating. Income generation will be one component, but it will not be a major component since everything will be weighed out equally. This is an ecosystem approach for engines, so there will be many different aspects of the ecosystem that we will be evaluating. So that one part will be looking at potential innovation or sustainability. Revenues is just one component of that. Potentially licensing structures will be another component. The impact of DIA on the workforce development, that is another component. There will be many components. So yes, hopefully that helps.
And we have another similar question, Shirley. There's a thank you for the evaluation framework outline. And could the engine logic model or theory of change be available to awardees prior to the July-August training session?
Boy, I am not going to promise anything because we are actively working on that, and based on the timeline. My sense is that it's unlikely to be completely ready by the July-August timeline. So I don't want to say that we will be able to provide it before then, on the off chance that it is not complete. I do think our goal is maybe the end of the calendar year. And the reason why I'm saying this is we want to make sure that we have identified all of the relationships, all of the functions that we think is taking place, and making sure that it is a complete picture that we are relaying, instead of sharing bits and pieces at a time and as it's still changing. So I think once we feel it is it is complete, then we will share.
If I may add a little bit to what Shirley said, we have been working with the National Bureau of Economic Research, throughout the past year to help identify certain key facets and aspects that awardees should start focusing on early on. So they actually presented that study recently at their annual one of their meetings, and they've gotten a lot of support for that approach. We will be sharing that final paper along with the presentation that they have within the next couple of weeks. So that can get you started and not have to wait necessarily on the full logic model, but it's a great place for you to start planning your activities around.
And
All right.
Shirley, Rachel,
Go ahead,
Shirley,
Dimitri.
maybe just to follow up. So just for the teams, I think as Shirley alluded to, or maybe Thiago earlier, that we recognize that the teams, that there may be some unique aspects to each region. And so while we will work to develop kind of a standard evaluation process to some degree, we also intend to work with you to define the somewhat customized performance evaluation strategy for your region, taking into account the nuances for your region. And so as Shirley mentioned, maybe your region already has a strong entrepreneur ecosystem. And so maybe that's not the major consideration that you want to focus on. And so we don't want to, while there should be a standard process, we're not trying to just develop one mechanism and say this applies to all engines across the board. And so surely Becky will be working with the teams to really focus in on what's important in particular for each of the regions. And so you should also be thinking about what metrics make sense for your region.
And I just want to acknowledge one of the things that did come up in our breakout room was, there's an understanding of how important this evaluation element is to the work that you're doing. And we hear you when you say sort of the more guidance you can give us as soon as possible, the better, so that you're not going out engaging with your partners and advising them on things related to evaluation that we come back and then say, actually want you to do this or that. So we recognize that. We're going to be communicating this information to you as soon as we can, and it will be an integral part of the training that will likely be kind of at the top end of the topics that we address through the training.
Okay, we have several questions in a kind of more general or other category. So we'll shoot these out to Dimitri, Thiago, or any of the rest of you who might want to chime in. When evaluating Type 2 awards, how will global recruitment or foreign direct investment of companies in the topic areas be perceived or valued?
So I can take this question. We have to be open to bringing in any kind of additional investment that aligns with the national security principles that are provided by the administration, right? So I think that's the important part. Foreign companies do have U.S. subsidiaries, and as long as these subsidiaries are are allowed and permitted to operate and engage in lawful activities within the country, then I think that's perfectly okay for you to work with them. If you're engaging with a foreign company, like not a US-owned subsidiary of the company, but rather a foreign company, that would be, again, as we outlined in the BAA, that will be part of the research security policy that we will be rolling out soon, and you will have to come to us for approval at that point before you engage with them. So again, stay tuned for the rollout of that policy. It will happen soon in the next 3 to 4 months. But in the meantime, if you have additional questions, please do reach out to your program officer. And of course, you also saw Stacy, so Sarah, so she's also available to help.
Thank you, Thiago. Are there considerations to incentivize private businesses to retool for a transition from fossil-based to bio-based products?
I'll take that. I mean, that's a very specific question. Probably unique to the needs of an individual engine. But what I would say kind of more broadly to make this point as useful as possible for the whole audience here is anything that you can do to set your region up for success in its future economy is valuable to this overall effort. If that is creating new ventures, if that is licensing technologies, if that's helping the businesses that are already in your community become future-proof by moving into emerging technology areas, there's a lot of different approaches to it. but I would kind of take this through the lens of how do I best set up my region for what the future economy will look like, to be a leader in certain topic areas in that future economy, and also so that we are contributing to our national competitiveness. So rather than kind of honing in specifically on helping companies do X, Y, and Z, I'll take the more macro lens of like what we are trying to do and how you're trying to shift your ecosystem's approach to how you build.
Thank you, Daniel. Has NSF developed any guidelines to ensure that awardees are not being perceived as lobbying officials?
Lobbying officials.
So like when they're speaking to their elected officials, how do we have any guidelines for how they communicate?
So look, I think you should definitely work with your institutional policies around lobbying, and the federal government we don't have any pass-through conditions on that. So we obviously cannot be seen as lobbying Congress for funding, but your institution may have its own policies on it. So I would say defer to your institutional policies on this. NSF is not going to impose any conditions on your lobbying.
Okay, here's a simple one. Are awardees expected to hire a CEO for a new organization to manage the engine?
So can you read the question again, Rachel?
Yeah, sorry about that, Dimitri. Are the awardees expected to hire their CEO for a new organization to manage the engine?
Okay, so I'm not quite clear what we mean by hire a CEO for a new. So let me answer. So all the engines have to have a CEO.
Dimitri, sorry, clarify. This is for the development awardees. These are so the question here is: are the development awardees expected to hire a CEO?
Okay, yeah. So development awardees, there is no requirement from NSF or the program BAA for the development awardee to have a hired CEO, right? So many proposals specify a PI or PD, or they call the person an interim CEO. But there is no requirement that the development awardee have a full-time CEO. Is that the question, Rachel? That whether the development awardee should have a full-time CEO?
I think that's correct in this context because it's the awardees that we're speaking to right now.
Okay, so no full-time CEO for the development.
I would say even if you do not have a full-time CEO, it's really important to spend this time thinking about your governance model so that you can make decisions in a timely fashion and you can move things forward. So even if there is not a full-time CEO in place, thinking about what that leadership structure looks like and what are those approaches. So you use this time really well and you're set up for future success, is really important. So adjacent comment, but important, even if you are not putting a CEO in place during this time period.
And Rachel, let me add one other comment to the question about lobbying. I'm not quite, I think it's important for us to point out that for those submitting type 2 proposals, there is no, you shouldn't have a letter of support from your Congress people or any such thing. There are no letters of support are not actually allowed for type 2s. So if you have a letter of support, that's actually grounds for returning the proposal without review. What you should have are letters of collaboration, which state that this organization is committed to participating as a member of the engine, as a partner in the engine. These are the quantifiable commitments from this partner, but a letter of support that just says, yes, we think this is a great idea, that's not actually allowed. So if you're gonna have partners at the state level, local level, government partners, then they should still be clearly collaborators and partners, not just supporters and so forth.
Thank you, Dimitri. This next question is about having an idea of what all of the type 1 awardees are collectively working on. And the question is it possible to share cover sheet summaries for the funded type 1s among the other type 1 PIs?
I can take this one. This is what I alluded to before. This information is available today on the dashboard. So if you go on the dashboard, you can look at the profile for each award. There's an award search link. where you can learn more details. And that information contains the abstract. It's the equivalent of a cover sheet summary, an abbreviated version of it. And you even know how to contact the PIs.
Thank you, Tiaga. That's a good reminder to utilize the resources that we have on our websites. This next question is related to the comment that was made about some of the type 2 proposals that might be better as type 1s. Do you have an idea of the number of type 2s that might be converted into type 1 awards?
No, we don't at this time. We don't know the answer to that.
Thank you, Dimitri. And will NSF fund multiple type 2 awards in a single topic across the country and across 2 funding rounds of the program?
It is possible that we would fund multiple engines in the same topic area, but not the same region.
Thank you. Do you have a decision matrix with criterias or priorities that you will use to make the type 2 award decisions that you can share? Dimitri, perhaps this is related to the BAA solicitation specific review criteria.
So when we're evaluating the type 2s, we're using the review criteria listed in the BAA. So that's what we will use to make decisions. So obviously, if there are multiple type 2s submitted in the same or overlapping region, then we have to take into consideration whether we fund type 2s in the same region, even if they're different topic areas. But generally, our approach is to consider each proposal based on the review criteria that's listed in the BAA.
Thank you, Dimitri. And a closely related follow-up, how much do you imagine the next version of the BAA will differ from the initial round BAA for type 2 proposals?
The next iteration, so we don't know how it will differ at this point, Rachel. We expect for some things to evolve, but in terms of the underlying principles, we expect those to remain the same. But obviously, we've learned a great deal through this process. The teams will have learned a great deal. And so there may be some things that evolve, but generally, the underlying principles will remain intact.
Thank you, Dimitri. Let's shift over to some budget-related questions for Florence. Are we allowed to request the advance payment through the payment process portal?
Yes, nothing's stopping you. Actually, it's not a bad idea. If you came to the webinar, you should probably check that you have all the permissions set up. So there's nothing stopping you from that, except you need to go into the system, work with your sponsor research office, and get all the information there now that you have the award.
And can NSF speak to the ability of teams to modify their budgets and subawards over the course of the award?
So generally speaking, we expect budgets to be modified. That's a discussion, however, you want to have with your cognizant program officer. So that's your first stop. I always advise that you include your cognizant grants official, and that person should be on your award documentation. And I understand in the conversations in my breakout sessions, there was some question about the award documentation. So I was going to meet with the engines team and see how we can get those and our BFA folks in that entity to see how we can get those award letters more broadly distributed. So that's a conversation. The first stop is always talk to your cognizant program officer. As the award proceeds, you may need to make adjustments, and then within those discussions, you can agree upon how those changes should look.
Thank you, Florence. And one more for you. Beyond the basic mechanics of budget mods and flexibility outlined in the terms and conditions, can you speak to how flexible and nimble NSF can be in considering scope and budget change requests?
Again, I think the best place to start is to your cognizant program officer. And since every project is different, you've heard us talk about the nuances with projects. It's very hard to just say broad brush, everything's going to be acceptable. So always want to start with your program officer. I think we always try to be as flexible as possible. They'll understand the guidelines or restrictions or constraints, and can convey that within the context of what you're asking. So start with your program officer. We always go in trying to be as flexible as we can. They'll reach out if they don't know the answer and get back to you on what's possible.
Thank you, Florence. This next one is for Daniel. Can you discuss the interconnection between an EDA Tech Hub and an engine? Will the receipt of a Tech Hub's award disqualify an engine award?
The simple answer is no. Receiving a Build Back Better Regional Challenge Award or a Tech Hubs Award does not disqualify you from receiving a Type 1 or a Type 2 NSF Engine Award. What I would say is you're going to have to make very clear how this effort is additive from other funds that you're receiving. And that's not limited to a commerce program. That's not limited to even a federal government program. Throughout this process, we want to know what will our funds do to unlock certain opportunities that would not otherwise be unlocked if our funds were not present, and what will our funds be used for that other programs you can't use the funds for. So for example, if we're going to use the Tech Hubs example, much of their work is potentially related to technologies at later TRL stages, more economic development centric work, larger scale workforce development, high throughput efforts, while they don't fund any research at all or anything on this kind of earlier translational stage. So making the case about how these funds are complementary and how they're additive and why they are necessary, kind of the but-for argument will be critical at any point in this process. But we recognize that our amount of money, $160 million, $1 million, or whatever it is nowhere near the scale of funding that you need to transform your region's innovation ecosystem. So we encourage people to find other sustainable sources of capital, whether that is corporate capital, philanthropic capital, other federal programs, and braiding that together because these are truly regional efforts.
Thank you, Daniel. This next one is more general again, so probably for Dimitri, but someone else might want to chime in. Can you comment on the right balance for involving consulting firms in Type 1 and Type 2 activities?
Yeah, well, I can say a little bit there based on what we've seen. So, the consultants can have a role, but I haven't found any scenario where it makes sense to have 10 consultants and the money is going to consultants to do workforce development, to do all the activities, right? The important consideration, Rachel, is as Daniel mentioned, you outlined the structure of your engine, and we need to clearly understand what it is the engine is expecting to deliver on, and who's going to do the work within the region to have the impact that the proposal is claiming. And you want to have people that you can point to that are going to deliver on that. And typically the consultants may be advising, may be providing some views, but they're not actually doing the work. And so when you have so many consultants listed in the proposal, then it reads like something other than an engine that's going to deliver on its objectives. And so that's what the advice that I would give a team who is thinking of engaging many consultants. You want to engage people that can actually deliver on the work that you're proposing.
And I just would like to add one other piece to that based on what we've seen coming through so far. So something else to consider is where the consultants are located and where their areas of expertise are in terms of region. So if they're in another region of service, then why are you working with them? That case would have to be made. And do they really know your region well?
All right, this next question is about conference support. Can our consortium request additional conference support funding from NSF to support multiple listening sessions, workshops, and conferences in our region?
So I guess but Florence, do you want to take that, or you want me to say
I
general?
think it's really about whether additional funds within the engines program would be provided versus is NSF going to require engines suggest that they seek that money elsewhere in the agency?
I think it's
And
really
I would,
about,
yeah, I would say that I think you should, we're giving you the $1 million for a full comprehensive set of efforts. And that includes conferences, workshops, and the like. So we hope that you will actually take advantage of it, but you are welcome to seek additional funding from other sources. We are not planning to provide any supplementary funding at this point to support such activities, because we think those are part of your original scope of the development activities.
Thank you, Tiaga. This next one is about interim reports, so probably for you, Florence. Given a 15 May award date, are we correct that the interim report due is on or about 5 November 2023?
Yeah, it's a little bit later, closer to November 15th. But like some of these other terms and conditions, there's a bit of flex in there. So I would say if you're thinking about submitting it slightly early due to financial constraints or other, you want to talk to the program officer. They have that kind of flexibility. If you think it's going to be late, it is tied to payments. So you might want to also talk to your program officer, because we won't release payments until those reports are submitted. So either way, talk to the program officer. Closer to November 15th, though, for that first interim report.
A couple more for you, Florence. Are type 2 engine solicitations budgeted in 23-24, so FY23 funds, and or FY24 funds, subject to appropriations in the course of FY24? I ask because it would affect the timing of our workshops towards the end of our period of performance, May 23 to November 24.
I think this question is about future type 2 awards, right?
Yeah.
Is that the way I'm hearing it? And I don't think it's there yet, right? We don't have that laid out. Biaga, do you want to talk about, or Dimitri, the plans for future type 2?
But can you repeat the question again?
So this is about how they're putting their fundings, whether for they're affecting the timing, how they're going to fund their workshops towards the end of their period of performance. So whether they're putting them in FY23 funds or FY24 funds.
So, okay. So you have to think about it, right? So Dimitri outlined that we expect to issue the call for the next type 2 funding opportunity to be happening around the second quarter of the calendar year 2024. Right, that's the April to June period. Now, we will likely have more days from then to submit the actual proposal. The deadline will be later than that. So if you are thinking of planning your workshop, I would presume that you would want to have that workshop and its outcomes available to you to help develop a strong proposal in time to submit a strong submission. So that's up to you. But that's the general timeline. Now, whether that happens in 23 or early 24 or mid 24, there's a lot of room for you. Our fiscal year starts October 1st, 2023 for the next fiscal year 24. So if that's something that you are tracking, that may help.
Thank you, Tiaga. This next one is about the leadership team and who it should be comprised of. Should the leadership team be a subset of the prime contractor team? I'm guessing this means the prime submission team, the leadership team, and the governance board, or just the prime contractors team. Also, the terms and conditions spoke about someone on the leadership team fulfilling the evaluation assessment function. Is that just a type 2 requirement, or is that applied to type 1 as well?
Okay, Rachel, I'll take the first half there about the distinction between the leadership team and the governance board. So those should be two separate groups. Governance board separate from the leadership team, although the CEO may be considered part of the governance structure, or however they create the structure. But the leadership team is, when we say leadership team, management team, those are the folks who are operating the engine from day to day, right? So you have the CEO, you may have someone in a role that's the director for R&D or translation to practice. So you have those folks who are part of the leadership team making strategic decisions, day-to-day operations of the engine itself, which is separate from the governance structure. The governance structure is there to provide governance of the engine and so forth. And what's the second part of the question, Rachel?
Let me get back to it. The second part was about someone on the leadership team fulfilling the evaluation assessment function and whether that applies to type 1s or just type 2s.
Well, certainly for type 2s, and you want someone as part of your leadership team to have that as a responsibility, because the underlying idea is that your performance evaluation of the engine is an integrated. The engine itself is an integrated machine, right? And so someone who is thinking from the lens of performance evaluation should be a part of your leadership structure. So it's for type 2s. Now, obviously, you want to start thinking about this well in advance, even as part of your type 1. But when we talk about the leadership team in this case and submitting type 2 proposals for the type 2.
I had something
Thank you,
else on
Dimitri.
the leadership team front, just kind of as a clarification, because I think part of this question was, does your entire leadership team need to come from your lead organization? Which I just want to clarify is not the case. Like that actually might potentially be a red flag in certain circumstances if your entire leadership team is just from one organization, because then it's unclear if it's actually representative of your entire region and your community. So if your entire leadership team comes from one group and all the funds are actually flowing to that group, and then you have a bunch of other organizations involved in name only, that's concerning, because we really want to make sure that this is a cross-sector, cross-organization representation of the needs of your community, and it's very difficult for all those people to be situated within a single institution.
Thank you, Daniel. That was a good clarifier. Just have a few more, I think, that haven't been addressed in some way yet. Would it be possible for NSF to arrange a walkthrough of the award terms and conditions with the key stakeholders at an institution?
Yeah, I think so. Depending on how much interest there is, I'm sure that the budget folks, the BFA folks would be happy to do that. Conversely, working with your program officer, it's possible we could get the grants officer and do a smaller team walkthrough. So I think we're pretty flexible, and we'll wait to hear some feedback from the other POs on what they're hearing, or if we get some feedback on this session that there's enough interest, we'll talk to the BFA folks and see what they can do.
Thank you, Florence. I think this next one will go to you as well. If sub-awardees have questions, should they be directed to the cognizant PO and grants agreement official?
It should always start with the lead institution. So the lead has cognizance over the sub-awardees, and then the lead can work with the PO. There's nothing prohibiting the lead from engaging the sub-awardee and bringing them into conversations, but they should start with the lead institution.
And is there a document or website that outlines the financial and administrative requirements for the development award?
Yeah, so we talked earlier about this, and I understand there was some confusion about award letters. In some cases, PIs hadn't seen it. So we're going to look into that. But if you want to see shortly the T's and C's, we'll send a link. I think that's the easiest way to do it. If you remember my presentation, I pointed you to the website section where it talks about how to manage your award. That's the place to start. The second place is reach out to your sponsor research office, ask them about the award documentation, and then also reach out to the PO, and then we'll figure out how to get another copy of the award letter out to you with all the terms and conditions.
Great, thank you, Florence. And I think we've covered most of the topic areas. There were some overlaps between the questions and a couple of questions that we might save for a broader conversation. So I'll turn it back to you, Dimitri.
All right. So that will end our Q&A session and effectively the discussion for today. Again, just want to say congratulations to all of you. And we certainly look forward to working with you and your teams and all of the exciting opportunities that lie ahead. So I'll close right there, hand it over to Thiaga, and you can close it out, Thiaga.
Absolutely. And again, I see many people posting more questions around the recordings. Yes, we will be making an available recording of this session minus the breakout groups. Do you expect that link to show up maybe within a week or two? There are also additional questions that we couldn't get to, but we tried to respond to all of them in the chat. So if you're tracking the chat, you may want to save the chat for later reference. There's an option to save it. Please save the chat. And again, any more detailed questions, your first option is to contact your cognizant program officer and or the grants officer named in your award letter. So for budget related questions, awardee support questions, talk to your grants officer. Any other program related questions, talk to your cognizant program officer. Please provide as many details as possible. It's hard for us to take on phone calls because we are in a particularly busy period. If you can share information as much as possible in written form, it's much easier for us to respond when we can. And when needed, we will definitely get on a phone call with you. So again, the process starts today, and we will continue to engage with you. And we thank you for your cooperation and your assistance and your eagerness to work on this together. Thank you.